வெளிகளில் இமயமாய் நிமிர்ந்து நிற்கும் உங்கள் RTV தமிழ்.
A to Z Indian Grocery Mobile Shop.
உங்களுக்கு தேவையான அனைத்து விதமான இலங்கை மற்றும் இந்திய மளிகை பொருட்கள், மரக்கறி வகைகள், கடல் உணவுகள், இறைச்சி வகைகள், பிரபல்யமான அனைத்து பிராண்டுகளிலும் மிகவும் மலிவான விலைகளுக்கு நெதர்லாந்து முழுவதும் இலவசமாக வீடுகளுக்கே வந்து விநியோகிக்கப்படும்.
தொடர்பு கொள்ள வேண்டிய தொலைபேசி இலக்கம் 0638824166. A to Z Indian Grocery Mobile Shop.
இனி நேரமும் மிச்சம்,
காசும் மிச்சம்.
Welcome to Braille Translations. We have many years' experience providing Braille to our customers. Leaflets, signs, restaurant menus, or entire books. We're here to help. We can also provide Braille in many world languages, and no matter what the job, big or small, we can assist you with your needs. Please call us on 0800 019 0946 or visit our website at www.brailletranslations.co.uk. That's www.brailletranslations.co.uk.
வணக்கம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது RTV தமிழ் இன்டர்நேஷனல். இன்று உங்களுடன் நான் கௌரிசன் ரத்னராஜா உங்களுடன் வந்திருக்கின்றேன். இந்த வாரமும் நாங்கள் மாற்றுத்திறனாளியோரோடு சந்திக்க இருக்கின்றோம். இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை அனுசரணை வழங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள் StreamYard.com மற்றும் Braille Translations Limited மற்றும் A to Z Grocery Shop. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை பார்க்க விரும்பினால் நீங்கள் ஃபேஸ்புக் மூலமாகவும் யூடியூப் மூலமாகவும் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணால் தான் பார்க்க முடியும். இன்று நாங்கள் மாற்றுத்திறனாளி விழிப்புணர்வரை சந்திக்க இருக்கின்றோம். அவற்றை பேர் டாரன் பாஸ்கல். அவர் ஒரு சரியான திறமசாலி உள்ள மாற்றுத்திறனாளி. அவருடன் நாம் முதல் வேலை செய்து கொண்டிருக்கும்போது அவரை பற்றி தெரிய வந்துள்ளது. அவர் டெக்னாலஜியிலும் மற்றும் அது வேறு விடயங்களும் நல்ல சிறப்பு பெற்றவர். அவரை நாங்கள் கலைத்துக் கொள்வோம். Good evening, Darren.
Good evening, Garrison. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Very good indeed. It's been. I'm really looking forward to a couple of days of sunshine. I think spring is in the air.
It is. Time has changed, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Thanks for coming to my show, Turning Point Show on RTV Tamil International. And this shows people are watching Facebook, YouTube, and also Eagle TV in Canada and worldwide as well. And also this show is sponsored by StreamYard.com. So, Darren, tell us, our viewers, about you first, and know about you. I'm going to ask you your full name and all the information we want to find out from you, sir.
Sure. Hello. I'm Darren Paskell. I am here in the UK, just outside of London. I'm currently kind of in lockdown, I suppose you'd say. just around High Wycombe, which is outside London. It's kind of halfway between London and Oxford. I'm a blind person. I don't think you could call me a very young blind person anymore. I'm in my mid-30s. And I am particularly interested in technology. I sort of work in the sort of area of technology research, especially looking at how technology can impact blind and partially sighted people. I love music. I'm not a particularly good musician by any stretch of the imagination, but I absolutely love music. And sports. It was very exciting this afternoon to see the Formula One season starting up again. Yeah, I am currently with my family, but yeah, I'm we've kind of been in lockdown, I suppose, for
That's
pretty much a
that's
year.
That's good. That's good. That's great. It's quite a lot of interesting subject you got to share with us today. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Can you tell us about your blindness, our viewers and listeners who are watching and listening?
Yeah, sure, of course. So I am I'm registered blind. So I would say that I have certainly no useful vision. I can see daylight out of one eye, and that is all. So I can't distinguish between I can't make out people. I can't see shadows. The only thing that I can really see if I sort of if it's daylight, I can just about tell if the sun's out, and that's about as far as it goes.
That's good. Is it from birth or
It
you got
is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was born prematurely. So my condition is as a result of retinopathy of prematurity. So I was born at 28 weeks. And I think back when I was born in the mid 1980s, our knowledge of infant care certainly wasn't what it is now.
That's good. That's good. So tell us about your education. Have you studied in a special needs school or you studied in mainstream school? How did it work when you studied?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of both, to be honest. I was actually born in Northern Ireland. My family originally are from Northern Ireland, and both of my parents are very passionate about education and about inclusive education. So there's always been a motivation in my family to send me to a local school. So I initially went to a school not very far from here, actually, which was actually a special school because we moved over to England when I was 4.5. And so I started at a school in Northwood, where I learned Braille, and I was there for 3 years. And then after that, I was in mainstream school from the age of 7 to 17. And that's where it was, if not the local school, it was a school that was still pretty much local, not more than about 5 or 6 miles away from here. I studied there. I used Braille all the time because that's how I read and write. And I also latterly, when I became a teenager, I learned how to use computers as well as Braille. So I think the two really key skills that I learned throughout my education were Braille and IT. Absolutely critical.
That's good. So when did you learn Braille? When you're studying in the special needs school in High Wycombe, or is in the mainstream school when studying?
Yes, that's right. So it was actually at the special school in Northwood was where I first learned Braille. But you'll know this that Braille is quite dynamic, and there are always changes or additions or modifications that are made to the Braille code, because language is changing all the time. So the Braille that I learned when I was 5, 6, or 7 is very similar to the Braille that I use today, but it's not identical. And as I started to learn at school things like, say, maths or sciences, all those STEM subjects, and also computing to some extent as well, programming, all of these things require, in some cases, their own Braille code. So there's Braille for maths, there's Braille for chemistry, there's Braille for physics, there's Braille for each different language as well. So I studied French and Spanish when I was at secondary school, and so there was different Braille for all of those. So even though I learned a lot of the Braille, most of the Braille that I still use today by the age of 7, it certainly wasn't all of it, because I didn't know how to speak Spanish or French, and I certainly didn't know advanced mathematics when I was 7. You could argue that I still don't know that now, but that's another story.
Okay, we'll discuss it further later. Yeah, and so when you're doing the studying, did you study in the mainstream? Did you travel every day to the school using cane or guide dog?
A cane. So
can you tell our viewers what is cane, white cane? Because some of the people, they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're more likely to, if you come across a blind person, more of us will use a white cane than not, I think. Certainly there are more white cane users than there are guide dog users. But yeah, essentially it's a white stick. And it is usually around about I think it usually comes up to your sternum, so kind of about your chest area in height. And as a blind person, I would hold it in one hand out in front of me, and I kind of sweep from side to side. So on the end of the stick of the cane that has contact with the ground, there's a tip, and you can get different types of tip, but the one that I prefer to use rolls, so you can kind of glide it over the surface of the pavement or the ground as you go. But sometimes some people will have will have a kind of a traditional pencil tip, and what that means is that instead of the end rolling, you can tap. And so, yeah, when you see a blind person with a cane, we will very likely be kind of sweeping it from side to side as we're walking.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you're saying the education, a similar thing. I did study in Sri Lanka and mainstream school as well. Before that, I studied in a normal school, and when I got a Braille teacher, she's only a teacher in Northeast in Sri Lanka, and studied from my. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Studying in mainstream and studying in a special needs school, a different environment, actually. Yeah,
they are very different. I spent a couple of years in a special school to do my A levels, kind of my college, I suppose you'd say. So after I left school at 17, I didn't actually have my my A levels in this country. I had the my GCSEs, but to get my A levels, I actually did go to one of the special schools for the for blind and partially sighted people in this country for 2 years to get my A levels too. So I've kind of experienced a little bit of both, I think.
Okay, that's good. So education. Can you tell us about your family, Darren, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the as I say, my family are predominantly Irish. So I was born in Northern Ireland. My parents actually met when my dad was working out in Northern Ireland at the time as an air traffic controller. And I was their firstborn, so I have my mum is from Northern Ireland, and still has all of her family pretty much are kind of there, or else in some other parts of the world too, but that they are Irish. And my dad, he's actually originally from West London, so we have most of his family here in England. It's just me. I've got it's just me. It's not just me. I was first, but I've got a younger brother, and he's I think a bit more business minded than I am. I really like technology, and he's kind of more into sort of marketing and operations and business work. And actually, after my dad retired, because he continued to be an air traffic controller after we moved back to England, and then he took early retirement from that about 15 years ago, and then bought a Routemaster bus, as you do. And so he actually had a business where around the bus. He actually at one point had a fleet, a partnership with another gentleman, and they had a fleet of 4 Routemaster buses that they would hire out for weddings and events and so on. But he sold his business about 2 years ago, and he's fully retired now. And my mum was for many years a personal assistant to a chief executive in an international healthcare company, but she gave up working to be a housewife, and then went back into working alongside Dad and my brother, in fact, as well, in the family business when he started with his Routmasters a few years back.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So he stopped 2 years ago before the pandemic happened, isn't it? Sold the business. Good for him.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible how the landscape has just totally changed. He fairly frequently will go to check on the bus, because the bus is still actually situated on an industrial estate where the business that he sold is still operating. So he still has contact with all of those, his former colleagues who are still trying to, make the best of what has been an absolutely devastating situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into too many specifics about this, but it's already clear that when you take, say, weddings and celebrations and events, a lot of those are still going to happen eventually. So actually, it's looking like the calendar, once society has opened up a bit, is probably for some businesses going to be busier than ever before. But clearly, it's just been a phenomenally difficult situation for very, very, very many people.
It is. Yeah. So you like music. What kind of music do you like, Dan? What kind of do you play music instrument? And
I knew you were going to say that. I play a recorder from my school days very badly. I basically I didn't really do very much with it after I left school, and then when I was a student, I sort of thought, wouldn't it be great to have something that wasn't involving computers all the time, So I dug up my old school recorder and started, informally playing with a few friends in a sort of a local church band, I suppose you'd say, for a few years, but I haven't actually played it recently. I must get back into that. How we're hearing about how people in lockdowns have been taking up new hobbies and trying new things. Somehow I haven't quite got round to learning too much with the recorder yet, but it's all things are possible. All things are possible.
It
But no,
is.
I love music of all sorts. So my it runs in the family really. Both my parents are keen record collectors, and I've been collecting. I suppose CDs, tapes, and more recently digital music for pretty much since I can remember. Really, at least 25 years.
That's good. That's good. ஆமாம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி. இன்று நாங்கள் மாற்றுத்திறனாளி டேரன் பாஸ்கலை பேட்டி இருக்கின்றோம். This show is sponsored by streamyard.com மற்றும் Braille Translations Limited. So Darren, Braille and it's quite improvement nowadays, the Braille and Braille technology. Can you tell our viewers about it, please?
I certainly can. Braille is still just as relevant today as it has ever been. What I actually have here, and forgive me, I know that this probably won't help. I'm holding up, or at least trying to hold up, a sort of a Braille pamphlet, a book that I got through the post about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And this Braille book is the Census 2021 Braille Guidance Booklet and Questionnaire for England. I actually, when we were, getting ready to fill out the census last week, I asked I contacted the census helpline, and I asked if they could send me the guidance in Braille, because it said on the website that Braille was one of the formats that you could request the material in. And I'm very grateful that they sent it, because that actually meant that I could read through exactly the same guidance that was available in print on my own, independently, and it arrived very, very quickly. But it doesn't have to be paper-based these days. I also actually have here a Braille Display, which again, forgive me, I appreciate this probably isn't coming out very well. I'm trying to hold it up, but what it essentially is a sort of it's a bit like a PDA, I suppose some cross between a smartphone and a tablet, I suppose, size-wise. And what this has is a line of dots. Literally, it's dots that are electronic pins. And these devices are essentially computers. So the pins will go up and down. They will refresh depending on the line that you're currently reading. And so what this does is it actually lets me connect to a smartphone, a tablet, a computer, any device, even a watch, I suppose, these days, to not only be able to read in Braille anything that I might be trying to access, whether that's by emails or an ebook or social media, but also to be able to write them as well. So there's actually a Braille Keyboard on this device as well. It's exactly based on the Perkins Braille technology, which has been around for many, many decades. That is essentially the closest that you're going to get to a Braille typewriter. So those machines are quite manual. They're extremely manual. You feed paper into them, and then you can press down on keys to have the dots that correspond with the keys that you're pressing actually manually punched onto the paper, character by character. And the principle still applies electronically, although there is obviously a lot more freedom here, because just as there's a difference between a typewriter and a QWERTY keyboard on a computer, it's exactly the same transition, if you like, between using a Perkins Braille versus an electronic Braille keyboard, such as what you would have on a Braille display like this. But it is fantastic. It's I've got about 1,000 books loaded onto this at the moment, so wherever I am, I can just turn it on and read it. I'm currently trying to get through the Richard Osman and Alexander Armstrong 100 Pointless Quiz Facts book. and there are many, many others that are available free of charge for people in the UK. You can request a card from a memory card from RNIB, and also most displays are compatible with services like Bookshare, for instance, which give you access to hundreds of thousands of titles through an electronic library. So yeah, Braille has never been more exciting or indeed more relevant. I'm typing on this now, and you can barely hear that I'm typing on this. It's an extremely quiet keyboard, and to be honest, the loudest noise that this thing makes, it's definitely not when the Braille is refreshing. You can't hear that at all. It's when it turns on and it makes a bleep bleep noise to tell me that it's connected to Wi-Fi. So
That's good. That's good.
yeah.
So, what is the name of the Braille display, Darren?
So this Braille display that I've got here, I'm testing it out at the moment. It's a model from Humanware. This is a 20-cell Braille display called the Brailliant BI20X. It has only been on the market for a few weeks. It's still fairly new. But you can get basically the 20 means that there are 20 Braille character cells on here, so I can read up to 20 Braille characters at a time before I have to press a button to refresh to the next line. But that's extremely quick. It's instantaneous. But you can get displays that are smaller, anything really from 4 to 80 cells, depending on your needs. I think 20 is quite a nice size for me because it's a lot easy. It's a lot easier to put a 20-cell Braille display into a backpack and carry it around with you, or even have it around your neck. It comes actually, I haven't got it installed here now, but it comes with a lanyard, so you can literally just hang it around your neck. But there are others as well. As I say, 40 cells is quite good when you're in front of a workstation, because that tends to be about the same sort of width as, say, a laptop or maybe a laptop stand or something. So they can sit very nicely in front. And obviously, the more Braille that you've got, the less refreshing you've got to do.
That's good. That's good. So you said the Braille display, brilliant model. You said you can store up to 1,000 books. Is that right? What is the capacity of the Braille display, Darren?
Yeah, so this Braille display, I think its internal memory is, I think it's 32 gigabytes, but actually what I've got them all stored on is a 64 gig SD card, which it also supports. Again, not all Braille displays have exactly the same specifications, but certainly this one supports this Brailliant BI20X has an SD card slot. There is also a 40X, which doesn't have an SD card slot, but it does have 64 gigabytes of internal memory, which is more than you get with the 20-cell model.
Okay. There's a quick question for you. The display. So you got it from Humanware, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So what is the difference between the Brilliant and also the Braille Note Touch Plus or Touch?
Yeah. Okay. So it's the same company that makes both of them. The Braille Note Touch is a more traditional note taker. So what do I mean by that? Basically, the main function, if you like, of a lot of Braille displays today, and certainly for the Brailliant BI X family of Braille displays, is that their primary function is to be an interface to something else. So when you turn this on, the first thing that you see is terminal. And that is the program that you go into when you want to interact with, say, a computer or a smartphone or a tablet. So that is primarily what they do. You can do other things on them as well. This one's got, as I say, a book reading function built into it. But primarily what it's there for is to communicate with other devices. And there's also a very, very basic editor on here. So you can basically create text files. Where something like a Braille Note Touch or Touch Plus or something like, say, Braille Sense Polaris or the U6, I think it is, Braille Sense 6, that's just been announced that will probably be on the market in a few months. They do a lot more than that. So what they will do is give you Braille access to be able to read and write Word documents. And they also run Android. So what you're actually working with is essentially the same programs that you would use on a tablet, but they're right there in front of you on the Braille device that you're actually using. So it's different because these note takers do more on their own than something like a Braille display like this. And there are certain situations where that would certainly be beneficial. There are still a lot of note takers that are still being used in schools, and I don't see that changing overnight. But what I was looking for was something a little bit more straightforward. If I want to do a document or do some proofreading, I'll do it on a computer. So what I really wanted to do was be able to find a Braille device that would let me access everything that I was already doing on another device, rather than be the one thing that would be the one device that I would use for everything.
That's good. That's quite a lot of information for that Braille display. Yeah, that's good.
Can I briefly mention Orbit Reader, Gal?
Yeah, you can.
Because what I've talked about here is Braille display technology, which is still pretty expensive. This 20-cell Brailliant BI20X that I've got here retails in the UK for something like £1,650. So we're talking about a Braille device that costs quite a lot of money, really. I mean, you're talking about you could easily get 3 or 4 smartphones for that. But what's really exciting as a recent development is Orbit Reader, which is a research project that has actually resulted in a lower cost Braille display that you can get now for more like £500. So a significant saving. It's we're talking about a third of the cost of the equivalent what I've got in my hand here. And what's really good about that is that it's not only is it low cost, but it also has a lot of the features that you would get with a Braille display. You can use it with, say, an iPhone or an Android phone or a computer, a Kindle tablet, whatever it might be. Where it's, I suppose, the main reason that it is a bit cheaper is that the way that it displays Braille is a little bit different. So it is still good. But it's you can hear it. The noise. It's sort of a, but it's a quiet. But you would hear it in a quiet environment. Say if you're on a train, it probably wouldn't make any difference at all. But you can get those too. I guess the main reason, and I love my Orbit Reader. The main reason I've got this HumanWare one here in front of me now, it's just because it's one that I've been testing, and it's the one I was using before we started here. But I love my Orbit Reader, and if it's a question of getting access to some Braille over no Braille, Orbit Reader is a great place to start. And if I were going through school at the moment, I would absolutely love to have one of those.
That's good. How much is Orbit Reader, you're saying, Darren?
It's around about £500. So
Okay.
you can get it in the UK from RNIB, but it's also available around the world from a number of other organisations. But the main, I guess, starting point would be Orbit Research, which is the company who've been manufacturing it. So you can find out more at their website, which is orbitresearch.com.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think some of the emails I saw, the Orbit reader, hard to get in from RNIB at the moment. The shipment issue, isn't it?
Well, they've been extremely popular, not least because there was temporarily funding available for RNIB to actually make them available for free when lockdown first hit last year, only for a few weeks, sadly. But to existing RNIB Braille library subscribers. Unfortunately, that's not available at the moment, but I would hope that similar schemes could be made available again soon, because we all want to see an environment where any blind or partially sighted person has access to Braille if they want or need it.
That's good. That's good. We can talk about a Braille long term, more than one day. Yeah. Can you tell us about your career, please, Darren? What do you do now? What did you do before? And so on and so forth.
Yeah, sure. So, so when I was, I'd say I've always had a technology background. That's well, almost. I started to get a bit of an interest, I suppose, in computers while I was at school. So I actually did go to university. I went to first up to Kiel, which is here in England. It's in sort of the northwest Midlands, if you like, so around sort of Staffordshire. And I then transferred down to Royal Holloway College, so in Egham, just outside of London. And in both places, I studied computer science because I really was interested in all aspects, really, of software engineering and programming and the kind of theory of computing. But I actually didn't really start working in that field. I did, a little bit of consultancy here and there, but my first real job, I suppose, after leaving uni, certainly that lasted more than a couple of weeks, was where I met you, Gal, waitering in the dining in the dark, because I was just keen to try everything, and so it might seem a little bit of an unusual jump from being in front of a computer screen to meeting people and serving meals, and it is. But I was just keen to try something a bit different, Sorry, and then I subsequently got a job, a research job with an organisation that supports blind and partially sighted people here in the UK. They were looking for an intern to work with them on a 6-month contract to help with some research around the currently available assistive technology. And it was a 6-month contract, but I'm still there 4 years on.
That's good. That's good. Hopefully they'll keep you on long term then, yeah?
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. That's good. So we'll come to your broadcasting side of things. So you long term you like to be a broadcaster, and you're working with one radio station, Mushroom FM. And also, you worked with me one of the radio station a few years ago. So, tell us about the Mushroom FM first, and how did you get to know about it, please?
Yes, of course. Well, it's a long held belief, and I think more than a belief. I think it doesn't take much of the imagination to to kind of jump to the idea that blind people might be interested in radio. The first device I can ever remember getting that you could plug into the mains, when I was a kid, 4-year-old, I think, when I got my first radio. I've always loved radio, and so when the kind of internet shoutcast, if you will, revolution sort of started to come on stream, and you started to get opportunities where anybody with a computer and a microphone could potentially be heard by other people with computers, that fascinated me, and so I started to try and get involved with various internet radio projects, as and when I could, about 20 years ago now. I was a bit of a latecomer to Mushroom FM, really, because Mushroom FM, it's an internet station which it's voluntary. It's run by volunteers. It's been going since 2010, so we are coming up to our 11th birthday in a few weeks, and I had known about it since it started, but basically, I think it was 2015. I was sort of looking for something else to do. I say I've always been interested in radio, but I hadn't really been doing very much to kind of cultivate that interest, if you will, for quite a few years. And I saw that that Mushroom FM was sort of quietly kind of looking for volunteers to get involved. So I thought, well, why don't I reach out to the guys and see if they're looking for any more fun guys to join in? So I did, and basically what we do, we're an internet radio station. We play music from the 50s through to the 1980s, and I say music. I mean, it's I suppose you'd say mostly mainstream or chart music, but certainly not exclusively. We've got all sorts of specialist shows. I tend to stay fairly mainstream. I quite like playing a bit of rock and a bit of punk occasionally, every now and again. But we've got other broadcasters who do other music shows as well. We've got, in fact, later on this evening, we've got Sarah Hillis in in Canada, who does the Come By the Hills Celtic music show. So it's great fun, because there's so much community around internet radio, which I mean, sure, you kind of get that to some extent before the internet came up, with people talking about, who were you listening to on a pirate station, or your favorite broadcaster, but now with the internet, of course, it's far more than that, because we've got all of these opportunities to actually reach out to and engage with people who are enjoying, hopefully, what we're doing, and it's just so fantastic to
It's a good opportunity for blind and visually impaired, other disabled people as well. As everything nowadays is a remote version of working at the moment. Some people, they like to do broadcasting, but they can't travel to the certain location. It's a good way to doing the broadcasting, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. So many of these tools now are accessible. And I mean, for me, talking to you right now, all I've got is a computer and a microphone, and that's all you need.
Yeah, it is. So we worked together one of the Tamil radio station a couple of years ago. What did you feel about that scenario, that kind of environment, different language sectors and so on? What did you feel about it?
It was exciting. It was really exciting, because what it I guess really showed me is how even though we have so many different languages that are spoken throughout the world, many thousands of languages, people are just as exciting and as interesting no matter what language they speak. And for me, it was absolutely fascinating and really interesting to kind of have that chance to I guess get to work with, but also get to hear from other Tamil speaking people from all around the world. It was incredible.
It is. It was actually, yeah, when we're doing the show together, 3 of us, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. ஆமாம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி RTV தமிழ் இன்டர்நேஷனல் மூலமாக பார்த்து கொண்டிருக்கிறீர்கள். இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை அனுசரை வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள் streamyard.com. இந்த streamyard.comக்கு சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ண வேணும் என்றால் ஃபேஸ்புக் மூலமாகவும் யூடியூப் மூலமாகவும் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணி பார்க்க முடியும் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை. Apart from broadcasting, do you have any other hobbies apart from music or technology, anything?
That certainly kept me very busy recently. I am a lapsed chess player. I haven't had a game for several years. I did take a chess set into work about 2 or 3 years ago, and I'd love to do that again. I have a score to settle because at the time my last game I lost, and I need to get better because I need to beat my colleague next time I have the chance to play it. But yeah, those have certainly been the main ones while we've been in lockdown. I do love traveling though, and I cannot wait for the chance to be able to hop on a train, even a plane, and go and see people again. Actually, there was when lockdown first came into force here a year ago. My ongoing joke, I suppose, for several months was, well, actually, I can't really remember when I was last on a train, but I know I was definitely on a plane more recently than a train. Because I had just made it back to the country from the States actually before they closed the border. It was quite close. There was only about 36 hours in it, so I was very fortunate to get back here at all. But yeah, I love traveling, and I can't wait to get to go and visit new people, visit some old friends, and see some new places, and make some new adventures again.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love to travel. It's a long time lockdown at the moment. Yeah. There's a new app come out for mainstream, and most of the blind and partially sighted and disabled community using as well. I'm going to talk about Clubhouse. What do you think about the Clubhouse? I think they made it quite a lot of accessibility in mind, isn't it?
Yeah, they have. It's been quite a whirlwind for Clubhouse, really. So for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about here, it's a social media platform that is almost entirely audio based. So you've got your likes of YouTube and Facebook for video and many other sites as well. But the idea behind Clubhouse is that instead of interacting with people visually, it's all about talking and listening. It's completely audio. So it's an app where you can essentially join rooms that other people might have already started. And when you go into one of these virtual rooms, there are essentially two areas within the room. One of them is the virtual audience, and that's where you start. And while you're in the virtual audience, you can hear everything that's going on in the room, but you don't have to speak. In fact, if you do speak, nobody will hear you because you're just in the audience. But the other aspect to it is that this is the stage area. So if you are invited by whoever's running the room to join the virtual stage, then you have the opportunity to interact with other people who are on the stage and speak. And whenever you do that, people on the stage and people kind of in the virtual audience can hear you as well. So I think it's really interesting that it's sort of happens so quickly. From a technological standpoint, I don't think there's particularly anything new there. We've seen audio-based platforms come and go over the years. But what is interesting about Clubhouse, certainly at the moment, is that they seem to have done very well at two things. One, getting I suppose influencers or for want of a far better way of putting this, people who they perceive might be interesting to hear involved. So, it's just possible that you could find yourself hearing from somebody in a room who you might find interesting. It's a bit like Twitter used to be in its early days. Quite a sort of a new way to connect with people who you otherwise might not run into. But the other thing that, as you say, that they've done very well is response to accessibility concerns. It's still a very new app. I don't think it's been around for a year yet. But when they started to expand their testing a few weeks ago, they released a very significant update which did fix a lot of the accessibility issues. So it is now perfectly possible for any blind or partially sighted person, using a screen reader with access to Clubhouse to actually participate fully in all aspects of its operation. So I think it's really interesting. I don't know how long it will last, but it does seem interesting to me that it is filling a need for audio-based communication. I think if you ever need any evidence that radio in the 21st century, or indeed telecommunications at all, are as key to human interaction and technologies, past, present, and future today, then looking at something like Clubhouse can definitely satisfy that. It's been created because people realize that actually the chance to be able to talk and listen to people wherever you are and wherever they are is just as fundamental to humanity now as it ever has been.
That's true. People always like a facial gesture. You can't do it in here anyway. Yeah. ஆமாம் நேர்களே, நீங்கள் பார்த்து கொண்டிருப்பது டேர்னிங் பாயிண்ட் நிகழ்ச்சி RTV தமிழ் இன்டர்நேஷனல் மூலமாக பார்த்து கொண்டிருக்கிறீர்கள். இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை அனுசரணை வழங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றார்கள் streamyard.com. So, as a disabled person point of view, what do you think about the normal society at the moment towards disabled people?
Wow, that's a huge question, Gal. I think that we're clearly at a bit of a crossroads. I think there have been so many challenges that have been brought about, very short-term but extremely immediate challenges, by all of the immense change that every single person on the globe will have experienced to some degree over the past year, and that's certainly been true for disabled people. I think that while there are so many opportunities to continue to participate as a disabled person, there are also some interesting challenges that don't seem to be going away. Just because you can get the census in Braille doesn't mean that you can get access to your local restaurant menu in Braille. And just because you can get access to, say, local supermarket priority delivery slots doesn't mean that when you turn up to your supermarket, now that you're no longer isolating, that you're actually going to be able to get the support that you need to go around your supermarket to do your shopping, particularly in the context of social distancing. So I think there are definitely challenges that disabled people all over the world, and certainly in this country, are experiencing right now. There's no doubt about it. And in some ways, over the past 12 months, things and accessibility challenges have maybe come back that we might have thought had been solved or overcome previously. But equally, I think that such things as working from home, the sort of simple adjustment that many disabled people have been asking for years and years and years and never being able to get anywhere, and all of a sudden now the entire workforce is working from home, seemingly. So I think society has also shown, as a whole, how well we can adapt if we want to or need to adapt. So I think there's plenty of potential for continued development, but I think there's also still a need to continue for everybody to remain as engaged as possible.
Yes, that's true. It is. Yeah, it's going to be difficult when they reopen next couple of days. It's going to be difficult for blind and visually impaired people going to the public transport and getting assistance. Is going to be more difficult than before. Anyway, before they're reluctant to do it. Now
No, that's right.
Yeah.
It's changed. 1 minute TFL. And okay, this is a very specific example, but 1 minute the Tube, the London Underground and Transport for London, had totally suspended all of their assistance services. Then they reinstated them, and then they kind of sort of temporarily suspended them pending goodness knows what, and now they seem to be back up and running again. But just because they're back up and running again on paper doesn't necessarily mean that they're up and running again for everybody. So there's still so much work to do here, and I really hope that any organization, however big, however small, that is operating some kind of service will continue to do everything they can to engage with disabled people to make sure that what they're offering meets everybody's needs.
Yeah, it is. So final two questions I'm going to ask you before the show finish. Can you compare between JAWS and NVDA? I don't know you heard about other screen reader. It's called Comparison or Compare. I don't know you heard about it.
No, I haven't heard about this one. I need to give that a go. I definitely need to give that a go. Certainly in terms of JAWS and NVDA, I think what's been really, really exciting over the past, certainly the past 5 years, but I mean, NVDA has been going for over a decade now. So it's we're talking about screen reading technology on computers, on Windows. And NVDA, non-visual desktop access. It's free, it's open source, and it is phenomenal. I think if I was starting to learn how to use a computer now, I would be more likely to go for NVDA because it's free, and it's perfectly capable. Where JAWS or Job Access with Speech, goodness knows why these screen reader manufacturers are so obsessed with acronyms, but I think why it's still as popular as it is that it's got a company that backs it for support. So as somebody who's using JAWS to get your to do your job, to be productive, that if something goes wrong, you can call up somebody and get help with whatever issue you're facing. And that is, I guess, the advantage of having a commercial company backing the products that you have. So I think JAWS will continue to be relevant, especially in those kind of workplace situations, just because the primary goal is to make the user experience as productive as possible. But NVDA, oh my goodness me, it's just incredible now that you can get access to some of this technology that is extremely capable without having to pay a fortune, because JAWS, it doesn't come cheap.
It is. So yeah, and final question, what do you want to say to our RTV Tamil international viewers and Turning Point Show viewers as well?
Wow, I think I would say thank you, and thank you again for this incredible opportunity. We've all been through so much over the last little while, but whatever happens, we are here, and I hope that we will all continue to help and support one another through the transitions and the immense change and challenges, but also incredible opportunities, I hope, that we will be presented with in the coming months. So
definitely,
thank you.
Definitely. On that note, thank you for coming to my show, Turning Point Show on RTV Tamil International. I'd like to thank you for your time, and also I'd like to thank my technical people, Riaz and his team, and also I'd like to thank everybody to watching our show. And this show is sponsored by StreamYard.com. If you know more about StreamYard.com, go to their website and know more. Subscribe to their broadcasting channel. Thank you very much, Darren. ஆமாம் நேயர்களே, இத்துடன் எங்கள் நிகழ்ச்சியை முடித்துக் கொண்டு அடுத்த வாரம் வேறொரு நிகழ்ச்சியில் சந்திக்கும் வரை உங்களிடமிருந்து விடைபெறுவது உங்கள் கௌரிசன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.